Hi, I'm Kate Abney, Homes Editor for Luxe Interiors and Design. Welcome to Creating a Dream Outdoor Kitchen, our Everything Outdoors segment brought to you by AJ Madison. With showrooms in the New York City and Washington, D.C. areas, and also offering nationwide delivery, AJ Madison represents a leading authority in the appliance category. This company offers a wonderful range of high-end appliance brands we'll hear about today. Particularly, every single piece you'll need to create the outdoor kitchen of your own dreams. Plus, AJ Madison has a great trade program too. So I encourage all of our design professionals viewing today to visit ajmadison.com to learn more about everything they offer. Which brings me to the introduction of our first guest, Jessica Petrino, who specializes in appliance industry education initiatives for AJ Madison. A resident appliance expert for AJ Madison, she serves as the content strategist and editor for AJ the Appliance Journal, and also records segments for Ask the Appliance Experts on WCBS News Radio. In 2015, she was recognized by the National Kitchen and Bath Association as an Industry 30 Under 30. And more recently, the organization tapped her for a continuing education webinar series that launches this October. So she really knows her stuff. Outside of work, she's an avid outdoor enthusiast, yogi, world traveler, and alpine skier. I also have the pleasure of welcoming landscape architect Robert Bell. A native of Easton, Maryland, he earned his degree in landscape architecture from Cornell. Today, he helms Bell Design, Inc., a Washington, D.C. firm that blends contemporary and classical elements to create harmonious compositions in both historic and modern landscapes. Robert's work imbues outdoor spaces with multi-season beauty, practicality, and environmental sensitivity. Using innovative materials, classic craftsmanship, exacting design, and thoughtful plant selections, he creates distinctive and dramatic gardens from the Hamptons to DC to Palm Beach. And though the term landscape architect often makes us think of the plants and hardscapes within an outdoor space, Robert frequently designs outdoor kitchens as well. He loves to team up with the experts like folks at AJ Madison to make those designs reality. Jessica and Robert, welcome. I'm so happy to have you both here today. And I know that you have so many amazing things to sort of offer us. And as we're learning about creating the dream outdoor kitchen, and we think that outdoor expert is so valuable. So could I ask you both, in your opinion, what makes an outdoor kitchen by definition dreamy?
So I think that there certainly needs to be a blend of beauty, but also functionality too. And also a really amazing group of professionals that come together, and it kind of needs to be a meeting of the minds to be able to execute a project very successfully. As the appliance expert, I generally recommend that my clients consider not just putting a grill in the backyard, but consider other components of a functional kitchen. I like to start with cooking appliances, but also we want to round out the space. I recommend considering refrigeration, storage solutions, as well as a functional cleanup zone. And then those appliances can be incorporated into an outdoor structure that is permanent and weatherproof. And then from there, the team comes together and the space gets rounded out with really beautiful finishes and furniture and landscaping.
And Robert, what do you think makes an outdoor kitchen dreamy?
Well, I agree with Jessica, and making sure it's all practical and functional and laid out really well. I think when you're entertaining outdoors, you really want things to go really smoothly, and you want to have that effortless sort of feeling, where everything's going really well and everything's, at hand. So thinking about space planning is really important. As Jessica said too, the materials really bring it there. After you've picked all the perfect, sinks and faucets and refrigerators and things like that, you have to sort of make them look great, and they have to be durable, and picking the right finishes is really important. So if your home is a wood home, do you do a wood cabinetry system? If it's more stone, do you have a stone sort of clad unit? So making it sort of practical and then integrating it into the architecture, into the landscape, really just makes it incredibly dreamy.
Right, I think so too. And Robert, you've worked with AJ Madison numerous times on your outdoor kitchen projects. And I know that you are determining a lot of the materials, as you said, but you're also sort of going to the experts at AJ Madison for that appliance selection. So what is it like to work with AJ Madison as a designer?
Well, it's really great. And Jessica is wonderful to really guide me and to help the clients when it comes to actually picking what they want. People say, I want a grill, or I want a pizza oven, or, a refrigerator. And that's a very broad statement. What kind of, do you drink wine? Do you drink cocktails? Do you need an ice maker? So the experts really help narrow my and my clients' sort of range down. Certainly budget's always a consideration. Space, if we're doing a small, outdoor kitchen in a city sort of apartment or sort of a rooftop, picking the right size, the right kind of connections, making sure the power usage is correct and things like that, because those are details that I don't really know a whole lot about. So the technical specifications can make or break some of these situations. So the experts really are someone to rely on when it comes to, picking out the exact correct unit.
I think to add, when meeting with a client, whether it's in showroom or virtually, it's really important to get to know a client's, not just their space and their specifications and their plugs and their connections. That's the whole technical end of it. That is super important. But I think it's also really important to get to know the client's needs. There are tens of thousands of appliances to choose from across the industry. There are hundreds of outdoor appliances. And so as an appliance expert, it certainly is important to help a client navigate their options, but it's also really critical to get a sense of what the client is like and evoke kind of those feelings of summer entertaining. And a really dreamy outdoor living space has really taken that into consideration. There's a lot of thought that goes into which refrigerator and which grill and which product is going to best suit a client's needs and preferences. And when that all comes together harmoniously, we can really evoke a really amazing experience for a client. We're really excited to launch our outdoor living page, where you can shop for all of the latest appliances for outdoor living and learn more about all of the top trends.
These kitchens, there's just so much thought that goes into them. And I know you mentioned to me that communication is key when you're working with either the design team or the end user client. Would you say that would be advice you give to someone who is thinking of creating an outdoor kitchen, to really focus on the communication and enjoy the process?
I think communication is really critical to execute a successful project, whether it's indoor or outdoor. I personally like to make sure that when working on a team of professionals on behalf of a client, that all of the professionals on that team have my contact information, so that if they need help or they need advice, or even just a simple specification sheet, that they have a point of contact that they can reference easily. And so definitely having that relationship and having that open line of communication is certainly critical, especially because some of these larger projects tend to incorporate a lot of different professionals and moving pieces. Furthermore, I really love that the AJ Madison website does have an amazing array of products, but also each product page incorporates all of the information that a trade professional would need. So in addition to communicating with everyone working on the project, it's certainly really easy to go into AJ Madison's website and find all of the installation guides and everything that would be needed. Everything's right at your fingertips.
Right. And Robert, you mentioned to me, Robert, you will send your clients to AJ Madison to sort of pick out their favorite appliance, and then you work with those favorite appliances to sort of incorporate them into a design. Is that right?
Yeah, that's often how it works. people will go and see something. I mean, it's a larger investment usually, and they want to go see it in person and sort of touch it and see how many knobs it has and the burners and all that kind of stuff. So they'll pick out something like a Lynx, for instance, and that they'll say, I really want this Lynx grill. And beyond that, I'm not really sure what to do sometimes until we sort of start saying, okay, you have a grill space. Do you need a sink? And then Lynx also makes sinks, which are great. So we sort of, start usually from the cooking piece, then we move on to refrigerators and sinks and other things. So integrating them, but usually start with the client's sort of preferences with that, and then say, do you need this? Do you need that? And then sort of go from there.
Right, right. And I know that Lynx has a lot of great products that I think Jessica will tell us more about today. I first want to kind of comment on how just extraordinary the idea of an outdoor kitchen is, because I think that 25 years ago this wasn't something that folks created in their backyards as often, and the technology has come such a long way, and the conceptual designs of today, everything that you do in your portfolio is so extraordinary. So do you think that outdoor kitchens have still a long way to go? Are we going to see even more incredible designs in the future?
I can start with that one, I guess. I think so. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure how it started, but I think people used to sort of think of the grill, and it was just a grill, and it would be on wheels, and it would be in the backyard. And then sometime in the last 25 or 30 years, I think people have sort of expanded their idea of indoor outdoor living. So people have put these giant doors that open up, and people have big windows, and they want to have a terrace that goes out from the kitchen, into the garden area. So as those things have expanded beyond the traditional envelope of the house, we've developed new technologies, and Jessica's more of an expert on that than I am, but certainly the grills are far more expansive than they used to be. You get these sort of very elaborate things with these, rotisseries that rotate, and the ice makers that are high temperature. You can have them outdoors and everything, and they work really well. So there's just a lot that's happened that is quite different than even when I started working about 20 years ago. So there's a lot of new things. I think the gas technology has really improved. People used to always say, oh, charcoal is the only way to go. And now you can get the exact same flavor, as far as I can tell, with gas grills, and they're a lot easier and more functional and cleaner. So I think there's always new things happening. And again, that's why I rely on the experts, because I know, the pieces that I know, but everyone always wants the next new big thing to, be in their outdoor kitchen.
Right. I think you're absolutely right. And I think that when you are creating an outdoor kitchen, you should always begin with a great foundation. And I'm so fascinated by the outdoor cabinetry options that we have at our fingertips today. Weatherproof materials and finishes, these really great outdoor woods that weather beautifully, like ipe and teak, and this watertight construction, particularly for cabinetry, like outdoor pantries and storage. And permanent structures that sort of shelter our outdoor kitchens that are becoming so popular. And I think that there are some really great examples of the outdoor cabinetry. For example, EXO and Lynx offer some really great options, right, Jessica?
There is outdoor rated modular islands that have spaces for outdoor kitchen appliances. And so inside of the spaces, you can incorporate a built-in grill or refrigerator. You could put a pizza oven there if you would like to. The modular islands tend to come unfinished, so that you could cover them in some kind of stone if you wanted, or brick. But they offer some pretty cool solutions, and that is sometimes a more cost-effective option. Now, if you're looking at going custom with, let's say, a stainless steel or a stone hardscape, for example, then what you can do is you can incorporate all kinds of different access door and drawer combinations. I really like Lynx offers a weather-tight cabinet that you can put into your custom outdoor cabinetry. And that's really good for items such as napkins, paper plates, paper towels, things of that nature that could be damaged with water. So adding a weather-tight area to your outdoor storage, I think, is really valuable. Another storage solution that has been exceptionally popular in most outdoor kitchens is actually some kind of trash and recycle chute or trash and recycle center, so that you can kind of discreetly do your cooking outside and do your entertaining, but then kind of stow away anything that you need to throw away, so that you don't have, you know, a big trash can in the middle of your party. So I think this whole development in outdoor living and outdoor entertaining really goes into how can we make this experience better for clients? How can we limit the amount of trips in and out of the house? And what products can be built to make living outdoors so much easier? And so that's what I've been seeing a lot of, is just a greater variety of products and solutions for easy outdoor cooking and entertaining.
Yes, I think you're so right. We're seeing so many options. And then I think that, you know, even at the bare minimum, you mentioned a grill, a fridge, a little bit of storage, and a sink is very essential. And, you know, we don't often think about this for an outdoor cooking space, but the sink is so important too, because you are sort of washing up as you're preparing foods. So that's sort of an essential, right?
I think it's really valuable. Like, personally, I wish I had one. I ended up putting a grill in the backyard kind of as a temporary stopgap in between doing an outdoor kitchen, but I find that I'm running in and out of the house all the time, especially after I'm handling meat and I put it on the grill. I want to run back into the house to wash my hands, because whether I'm gardening or cooking or whatever it is I'm doing outside, having that place to just kind of clean up is really nice. Additionally, it's not, a lot of the sinks that are available are not just for washing dishes and washing your hands. A lot of them offer additional functionality for entertaining and like cocktail service. So a great way to put a sink into your kitchen is actually to purchase what is called a cocktail station.
Yeah.
And the cocktail station, it's multifunctional. It has a sink, a faucet. A lot of the times the sink is actually insulated so that you can put ice in there and it'll stay cold for a really long time. So that's really cool. And then they have places for paper towels and a speed well for spirits or mixers or whatever it is that you're creating. It's certainly a really functional way and a fun way to incorporate a sink into your outdoor living space.
I completely agree with that. And I know Lynx has a great built-in cocktail station that we love. And then Robert, you said that one that's on your wish list from AJ Madison is the XO 30-inch Cocktail Pro Station with sink, right?
Yeah, that was one of my favorites we talked about. I mean, I think anyone who's been outside grilling, you know, in the July summertime heat, certainly here in the Mid-Atlantic, would like a cocktail. But again, the sinks are multifunctional, so you can have a little cleanup area, you can have an ice area, you can have the well that Jessica was talking about, and those things can hold, you know, fresh fruit, or they can hold, you know, celery or various things that you're using to cook. So all those things are sort of multifunctional. And again, they save trips going into the kitchen, because once you're out there and once everyone's sort of having their drinks and everything, you don't want to be going back and forth into the house. So I think it's very worthwhile to sort of think about the cleanup. You know, you're putting meat somewhere, you're absolutely going to want to wash your hands between that and handling a drink or whatever. So a sink, important. And then if there's a little functionality with a cocktail area, hugely important.
I think it is hugely important. And, you know, also speaking of grills, Jessica, I think you said two of your favorites are the DCS Series 9 professional grill and the Lynx L42 TR grill, right?
Absolutely. So I'll start with the Lynx. The Lynx 42-inch grill has been a top seller this summer. It certainly has been a favorite for a number of reasons. One is it's a professional style grill. It's very durable, made of 304 grade stainless steel. So that's marine grade stainless. It's going to be a lot sturdier, less apt, more corrosion resistant, so to speak. And it's really going to hold up really well over time. It comes with a lot of cool features, an included rotisserie, and it has a dedicated infrared rotisserie burner. Additionally, it comes with 2 standard burners and their proprietary Trident burner. So this is their sear station. This Trident burner is infrared, it's gas. It can go anywhere from 300 degrees up to 1,000 degrees. So if you really want to quick sear some tuna steaks, or if you really want to get that char on a really nice piece of meat, then you certainly are going to want to have a grill with a really powerful searing station. So we really like this Lynx model, and the Trident burner technology has been very well received. I like the DCS Series 9 grill as well. It has a lot of great features, and the reason this grill is really special is because it has the ability to cook with gas, charcoal, or wood chips. So and you can do a combination of those things. So if you really love the convenience of cooking with gas, but you want the versatility and the flavor that goes with charcoal, then you can have the best of both worlds with the DCS Series 9 grill.
Yes, it sounds like you're getting lots of great flavor when you cook with these appliances. And I think that reflects all the great technological advances. And speaking of which, I am so fascinated by the new models of outdoor pizza ovens, because I think a lot of us think of pizza ovens as those massive, sort of brick ovens, or the sort of tiled ovens we see at our favorite Italian restaurants. And the idea of having one in our backyard sounds like such a big investment. But there are actually a lot of new stainless pizza ovens that cook not just pizzas, right? That we can have in our backyard, in our dream outdoor kitchens.
So absolutely. Outdoor appliance manufacturers are certainly looking to go beyond a regular grill. And they are offering a wider array of outdoor cooking appliances, and the pizza oven is super fun. It certainly can make amazing pizzas, but you could also do any other meal that you could cook in an oven. So for example, you could do anything from cookies to your Thanksgiving turkey outdoors if you wanted to. There are a few different types of pizza ovens. We really love the Lynx gas pizza oven because it can get up to 700 degrees in minutes. So it's really convenient to be able to get up to temperature really quickly, and to be able to control the temperature. But that's not the only pizza oven out there. XO is an appliance brand that just released a wood-fired pizza oven. So it's not gas powered. You would literally, it looks like a little mini hearth, and you build a little fire in it. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you're able to move the coals over to the side and have a traditional wood-fired pizza oven. So there are different solutions for different types of spaces. And it's not like a huge appliance. They aren't super, super big. They can fit on top of a counter space. So if you're doing a built-in outdoor kitchen, or a modular kitchen in, I would say, probably 6 feet of space, you'd be able to incorporate an outdoor pizza oven on top of the counter in that space.
Yes, I think that just sounds incredible. The option of having that in backyard obviously sounds dreamy. And Robert, I would also like to ask you, we've talked about a lot of really fantastic appliances. I would love to hear some examples of how you've integrated these into projects.
It really depends on the client space, as we discussed before, and how much space they have and what kinds of items they want. The pizza ovens do tend to be a bit larger of an item. So if you want something like that, we have to sort of accommodate that for sure. I like putting in things like outdoor fireplaces too. I believe Jessica has some of these, the drop-in stainless steel pieces, which are really popular right now. Everyone wants to be outdoors. We start getting into fall, September, October here, a little chill in the air, and you sort of light that up. So we can integrate that into the gas system that we use for the grill, and it's all connected. So it's really not that much more to put in another item like that. But certainly having sort of a preparation area, so food, sink, refrigerator, then having a sort of dining area that's slightly separated out, but not too far away, and then having something like an element like an outdoor fireplace. So sort of thinking of the different elements all together and how you sort of see them from the house, which is always really important. I don't like looking directly into a grill from the house, so maybe putting it off to the side, and having sort of an element like the fireplace be sort of a more central element, and thinking about space planning like that, is how I generally would start a project.
That's great. And, I think your Sag Harbor project is a great example of incorporating everything so beautifully in context. Do you have anything that you would like to share about that project?
Sure. Well, that was next to a pool, which is another even element that we're sort of not really exploring today, but often, there's a backyard and there's a pool. So thinking about, are people going to be in and out of the pool? Are they going into the house? Are they going across to the grill? In that particular project, we had a very long dining table right next door to the grill because everyone wanted to be next to the grill when they were grilling. So, and that's in that case, we actually did want them pretty close. But certainly thinking about things like kids and s'mores and marshmallows and things like that. So, on a long sort of summer's evening, would you go into the house? Would you have that particular one has storage underneath it? So you could store some food items, you could store some utensils like tongs and forks, things like that. Because again, once you're out of the house, you kind of want to stay out of the house as much as possible. So thinking about storage, and that particular project was really important.
Yes. And speaking of family-friendly projects, I think that you have two really neat ones in your backyard in the DC area. And they're actually neighbors. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes, I did two projects in the Palisades neighborhood in Washington, D.C. One client hired me, a young couple, and they do a lot of entertaining, and they have a very transitional style. So we did a really beautiful stone a grill area for them. They have a very sort of clipped garden area, so a lot of flat surfaces and sort of contemporary looking. The other family is a young family. They have, I think, 3 children at this point. They really wanted an outdoor pergola, so a shade structure that opens and closes. It's pretty interesting. And then right next to that, we have the outdoor kitchen because they want to be outdoors at all times. I think they have a TV set up in the pergola at this point too. So again, it's almost like a living room for them where they can go from dining to cooking to watching television all within sort of a 40 by 50 or so space. So and then they're also friends. The neighbors are also friends. So they're back and forth between each other's areas, and it's really nice to see. Actually, it's really very sweet.
So one project led to the other, right? The original clients had their amazing kitchen, and then their neighbors saw it, and then they wanted the outdoor kitchen too.
Absolutely.
Right?
There's a little bit of competitiveness, I think, sometimes with people, which is always fun. As long as everyone gets what they want at the end, which they did.
I think that all of us are sort of craving these dream outdoor kitchen spaces, and that sort of these projects are really great examples of that. Jessica, I wanted to ask you one more question. Are there any exciting sort of outdoor kitchen trends of summer 2021 that you were really excited about? I know you mentioned to me custom colors, which sounds so exciting.
Custom colors are so much fun. We certainly have been noticing a lot of color in the indoor kitchen appliance space, and outdoor appliances, we're starting to see some brands incorporate options. Customization, it's not just about color. It's really about how you like to cook, how you like to live, and how you like to entertain.
Thank you. I mean, I completely agree. And I think that we're in for some really exciting upcoming outdoor kitchen projects, based on everything that I'm hearing today and all these great options from AJ Madison. So I'm thrilled, and I can't wait to see, what comes from summer 2021. So I want to thank you both so much. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Robert, for joining us and for sort of just sharing your expertise on dream outdoor kitchens. I am incredibly inspired, and I'm sure that all of our viewers are too. It was really exciting to learn about the AJ Madison offerings, in particular, those options from Lynx. They look incredible. And I also love seeing all these real life examples from Robert's portfolio, and then learning how much his clients were inspired by the outdoor kitchens of their neighbors. I think we're all craving outdoor kitchens now. So thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Robert, for joining us.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time. And I want to encourage everyone to please be sure to check out our Everything Outdoors feature on luxsource.com for lots of inspiration for creating your ultimate outdoor sanctuary. We'll see you next time.
Hi, everyone. I'm Grace Bewley Hunt, Luxe's Home and Design Editor, and I'm so lucky to be joined today by Robin Rains and Anne Daigh. Thank you all for tuning in for today's virtual garden tour. So for those of you who don't know, Robin is a Nashville-based interior designer, and Anne is a Nashville-based landscape architect. And the two recently joined forces to deliver a stunning front courtyard garden for a shared client in Belle Meade, Tennessee. And I recently had the pleasure of featuring this exquisite outdoor room in Luxe's Spring Outdoor Living Report. And I wished I had 50 pages because there are so many gorgeous nooks and crannies and images. So I'm just so thrilled that we have another opportunity to see some more of this special space on today's tour. So Robin and Anne, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Robin, I'd like to start with you. I remember that one of the leading considerations for this project was that your clients were huge fans of traveling in Europe. Specifically, they loved France, and kind of capturing a Provençal feel was really important here. So I kind of want to talk a bit about that as it relates to the courtyard, and maybe if you could share a bit more about that inspiration and some spots where we really see that come through in the design.
Sure. Yes, my clients love Europe, all aspects of traveling over there. They also have a great love in the States for New Orleans and the French Quarter. So you'll see that come through as well with the Provence feel. But they love collecting European antiques. And I think that really shows even, in the outdoors as well. They have a deep abiding respect for the past. So this passion just kind of fueled us for the inspiration for both the overall design and for the courtyard. And some of the elements that we chose to kind of further this Provence feel is the French limestone that we used. It's from France Wine Company. It's called Dubisson.
So beautiful.
And I love it because you can use it indoors or outdoors. It also tends to make the courtyard appear larger because the space is not so varied or stopped. So that's definitely the first thing I think that sort of creates this overall feel, if you will.
Anne, I'd like to kick it over to you to talk a little bit more about how these spaces lay out. I know you guys were working within architect Doug Enoch's beautiful framework here, and it's kind of got a European ethos on the outside, but can you kind of walk us through some of the zones and how you arrange them, and perhaps any French or European influences that you kind of paid homage to in your planting palette?
Yes, absolutely. Just to kind of zoom out just a little bit for a second, just to kind of give you a little bit of insight about the neighborhood itself. It was basically a high density neighborhood development with zero lot line. So basically the shapes of the house took up almost the entire lot. The houses were maximizing the lot sizes and making the whole neighborhood more of a human scale development, which made it more walkable and that sort of thing, and kind of gave it more of a French village feel in general. But essentially, since the house was taking up so much of the lot, the courtyards were a direct reflection of that negative space that was created. So essentially, there's not really a lot of green space within these building envelopes, but what there were, they basically created these little nooks and crannies, like you were saying, in this courtyard feel, which I think is kind of that European feel. And I think that's what's so beautiful about those European villages that you go into, because you just get this sense of human scale, because they were all built before the car. And so now I think these new urbanist developments are trying to get back to that, to where it feels, it's just that human scale. So anyway, that's kind of how the courtyards were laid out. And that courtyard in the front, it's almost like as Robin was saying, it's an extension of the house. So it's kind of like acting as the foyer for the house. So when you walk in, you're walking into this layer of green, and the trees that you walk, like there's some, those two single trunk crepe myrtles kind of create that second layer to make it feel like it's a canopy or like a ceiling, if you will, when you walk into that space, which I think adding those different layers with using trees as architecture, which is something I like to do, and that structural element to kind of, make the space feel more human scale. And I think just little techniques like that, by adding the different layers with the plants and then just giving it that rustic feel. So that front courtyard garden also faces the east. So like that was kind of a place for the clients to kind of come out in the morning and have their morning coffee. And then as you move through to the rear, that space in the back is also another courtyard, but that is more of like their kind of functional space where we have a little cut flower garden back there, because she wanted to be able to cut, cut flowers year round. So, and being in a courtyard space, you're lucky because it kind of creates a little microclimate. They have less exposure to the, outside environment. This style of living in general with the courtyard spaces, that I'm noticing a lot of my clients are looking for lower maintenance, because it's kind of like these small spaces that we can really, pack a lot in there, but it's just not that as much to maintain. So like you can do a lot within those spaces, but then it's that indoor outdoor living, but beyond the walls, it's like there's not much more maintenance beyond that. So
yes, that is a huge perk, definitely.
Anyway.
And that's kind of reflected in some of the materials you both selected, right? In terms of that limestone flooring that flows in and out.
Yes.
And is it pea gravel in that kind of cocktail lounge area?
Yes, we call it, it's like a decorative gravel, but it definitely has those warmer tones, like kind of that warm gray mix that I just think is so beautiful.
Definitely. Yeah, that's one of my favorite personal notes. And I always like to ask design professionals to play favorites, because everybody has that one thing in the room or the outdoor room, as it were, that just makes your heart flutter. I'd love to hear, what really made the room in each of your view. Robin, why don't we start with you?
Well, from my perspective, obviously the furnishings, because we really chose to keep those at a minimal. And we wanted them to really look like sculpture. So we chose the Amalfi collection by Janice SC. And it's so beautiful. It has lattice work. We chose a dark iron finish, just to kind of, bring you in, in the focal point in the center of the space. And Janice at Sea calls this collection like their little black dress, because it's so timeless.
Yes.
And I love that, because it's so true. It is so versatile and can adapt to any surrounding. Another favorite design element is the pair of wooden doors that leads from the street, as Anne was mentioning, because it is a zero lot line into the courtyard. And we kind of wanted to create an overall arched shape. So the doors were painted Chelsea gray by Benjamin Moore. Love that color. It's very inviting and intriguing. And then we designed an iron yoke to sort of hold a copper gas lantern that sort of just hangs, if you will, over the pair of shaped doors. So the whole thing creates sort of an arch design.
And how about you? What would you say your favorite moments are in terms of the landscape design?
Well, one of my favorite things is just in general being able to work on such a smaller scale, but being able to get a lot of bang for your buck. It's like, number one, I love designing just in a courtyard space, the privacy, number one, that courtyard space provides. But then once you walk in it, and as I was saying earlier, being able to design in a courtyard, it has that microclimate.
Right.
You're walking in and it's like, you can kind of plant things that you normally wouldn't be able to plant. That's one of my favorite aspects.
That's really fun. And I feel like that's just a really great, like, gardening 101 tip. I would not have known that, but
yeah.
If you want to grow fruit, have it hug a building where it's going to have a nice blanket.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. But I'd love to hear each of your take on, the courtyard and, why you think it may be kind of having this renaissance, or if you're working on any new projects that kind of speak to this renewed appetite for outdoor living spaces.
I've certainly seen, especially since the pandemic, that it's more apparent that people really want that social connection, and the front yard lets you have that. So it's like the front yard can be a more formal, inviting place or garden, and then the back can be your private sanctuary. And what I love about the courtyard concept is that, if you want your private sanctuary, like Anne said, to go and have your coffee in your robe in the morning, the doors are closed, and it's almost a mysterious, kind of intimate environment because it is small, and that's what I love about it. But yeah, I just love the overall mysterious feel of a courtyard and how beautiful you can make it.
I agree. And I feel like it's also just a kind of transportive concept, at least for me in the Northeast. Like, we don't see a lot of them. So when I see one, I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in like Marrakesh.
Yeah.
Like there's something like that
Exactly.
really takes you away, which is
Yeah.
so fun to have in your home.
Exactly.
Anne, I'd love to hear your perspective as well.
Wow, I echo everything that Robin just said. Like, I thought that was so well stated. In addition, I would like to add, I've just noticed I just think the onset of social media and like Pinterest and Instagram, I have so many clients coming to me these days, and they'll show me pictures of what they want, and it's usually, they don't realize it, but it's a house in California, and they're like, I want this indoor outdoor living.
Right.
And so I do feel like the social media has played a huge role in the access that people have to seeing what outdoor spaces can be. And I think also what Robin was saying, the social aspect of that front courtyard entry and the curb appeal, people are just wanting, I think it is kind of signaling some kind of social, like welcoming aspect, and like, because you do kind of think of your front yard as open to everyone, welcoming people, but in the back, it's way more private. And that's kind of, you don't want people to know what's going on in the backyard, but in the front, it's a more welcoming aspect. And so I think just more and more, it's a great thing. I just think more and more people are becoming more aware of what the possibilities are, and that sort of thing. So anyway, I think it's been great.
I agree. I think that's so fun. And we didn't even, I don't think, talk about this for our interview for the book, but I know that my title for the page was Party in the Front.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought that was
I like that. That was
true. The front says come over. The courtyard garden is like ready for company at a socially distanced setting. Well, just to kind of sign off here, guys, I would love to hear talking courtyards, talking about seeing it with your clients, but in your perfect world where you're designing your own courtyard garden, what's the inspiration? What's the focal feature? Like what are you dreaming about in terms of designing a garden right now? Robin, why don't you start?
Oh goodness, it's hard to do your own house, but I think for sure, I think I love this courtyard. I mean, I love everything about it. I think a water element is lovely. There's something about the running water that's so relaxing to me. I would love neutral upholstery, and I could just envision boxwoods planted in various size terracotta pots, just distributed throughout the courtyard. And oh yeah, I can dream big, and I would definitely hire Anne Daigh to do it.
Me too.
That's the key.
And what's happening in your courtyard garden?
Oh gosh, same thing here. It's like so hard to design for yourself, but I have to keep myself restrained. Like my favorite design concept. Well, number one, designing a courtyard, I love it because it gives that sense of scale. And like Robin was saying, people seem to be drawn to those smaller spaces that are cozy and the human scale of it. So I would definitely do it kind of like a structured landscape, like I like to say order and chaos, where I would have very structured plants against very textured plants. And it lends itself to creating that harmony that we want. So like when you see those two, the juxtaposition of those plants side by side, like very architectural, very streamlined, but then an area where I can just have lots of perennials and fuzziness overflowing, order and chaos. I just think that that's what we all need as humans. And so when you see those two side by side, it creates that harmony. So, and then water, I think the sound of running water, I think, is one key element. And that's one thing we did not put in that front garden. So like, if there's anything missing in that courtyard, it would be the water, because I agree that there's nothing like that sound of water. And I want to do a water feature that has like tons of water lilies and lotus. And so it's real, you know, kind of lush, and you feel like you're in a tropical place. So anyway,
Sounds great.
Agree to
I'm like,
that.
take me there. That's where I want to be.
Yes.
Well, I don't know about you all, but I will be dreaming about a courtyard garden of my own for the rest of the day. I'd like to just wrap up by thanking Anne and Robin so much for your time and for all this great inspiration for us, and to our viewers for tuning in to Design TV. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much.
Bye.
thank you.
I'm Pamela Jaccarino, Editor-in-Chief of Luxe Interiors and Design. While we've been in our homes, all of us are craving nature and outdoor spaces. A connection to landscape is so incredibly powerful. One recent study found that people exposed to nature recovered from stress more quickly, and the positive effects took hold within minutes. That's something we could all use right now. Today, I'm thrilled to be with Los Angeles-based landscape designer Andrea Scharf for a chat about the healing power of gardens and landscape. Andrea, it's so nice to be with you.
It's so nice to be with you too.
How is it? How are you doing with, quarantine world and all of that?
Well, we're very lucky because our profession in Southern California is considered an essential service. And so we're able to still work and keep our operations functioning, which has been really therapeutic in and of itself, because at least we're able to focus on our projects that are present and future, and getting those built and planned. And so we're still full steam ahead, which is lucky for us.
That is wonderful, especially in LA when so much is locked down. And it's so incredible. I am in Florida and have been literally locked into my house, so busy. But really, just a few days ago, I went to a wildlife refuge right near my house and did a 4-mile hike. And it's so incredible to be out in nature. It really is healing. And I really want to kick things off by talking about the connection between landscape design, health, and wellness, which, from the ancient Egyptians all the way to Frederick Olmsted, who designed Central Park famously in the 1860s, right? So many people see that connection. And I want to start with sort of getting your perspective on the connection, the important connection between landscape design and health and wellness.
Well, I think now it's more important than ever, to be honest. It's interesting when you consider the notion of man connecting with nature or women connecting with nature in these times. So many people have lost their jobs, they've lost their livelihoods, they've lost, everything. And there's one consistent thing that we can all do, and that is go outside and observe the beautiful spring that's unfolding before us, and take joy in small things like a bird's nest being created outside of your office, or a flower that has been, covered under 12 inches of snow for 9 months and now is emerging. And so, going back to Olmsted and what you said earlier about him, I mean, he really democratized nature for Americans and made it so that it was available to everybody. And I think that now more than ever, it's free, and it's the richest thing that we can all do. It's going outside and enjoying the beautiful outdoors.
And it's, you see signs of rebirth. It has so many healing effects. It does bring down like your blood pressure, and you see that life carries on, even though we are living in this crazy COVID world. The birds and the plants are just, doing the thing as they always have. If you're just joining us, welcome to Health and Wellness Week at DesignTV. Today, I'm speaking with LA-based landscape designer, Andrea Scharf. So you mentioned, Andrea, that you are working on, your projects are moving forward, you're out there. Tell us a little bit about, share some of the, what are some of the therapeutic gardens that you've designed for clients, or maybe you are designing for clients right now? Take us into that magical world of yours.
Well, I think it's very interesting. I was looking up the nature of therapeutic right before we started this interview, because it occurred to me that this might be very poignant, and it is. So therapeutic, the whole nature of that is relating to disease. And what if we thought about disease, instead of being disease like coronavirus, what if we think about it as being dis-ease? What if we create magical spaces that relieve our dis-ease? And so I think for everybody, what makes us anxious, what makes us sad, what makes us feel uncomfortable in our environments is very personal. So I am finding a lot of joy working with families who have little kids. That for me right now, I have teenagers, so that may explain a lot.
I'm there with you, sister.
Okay, well, I hear you. Coronavirus and senioritis is a tough combo, but we're working on it. But suffice it to say, you know, working with families who have little kids who are inside all day long, and the moms are trying to teach fractions and being Betty Crocker and full-time, you know, caregivers and cooking all the time, you know, to create an environment for families with little kids that they can go outside and they can see, you know, you can create birds' nests or areas that attract butterflies. I have one client who posted a picture of a gorgeous Pride of Madeira that was covered with monarch butterflies. I mean, what lifts the spirits more than that, right?
Exactly.
So I think if you think of our therapeutic gardens as relating to disease, I think it could mean a whole lot to different people at different phases of their lives.
That's really interesting. And, you know, I wanted to also touch upon, you know, how you got into this profession. And I know you grew up in, if I have my facts straight, you grew up in the South. You were gardening with your parents, maybe seeing those butterflies and green shoots come up. But you were originally in the tech industry. And I was interested to ask you how you made that leap into becoming a landscape designer. What was the attraction for you?
You know, I think I always really loved and appreciated being outside. When I was, you know, golly, I started gardening truly when I was about 3. My job was to pick up sticks, and then it was to weed, and we would count the weeds, and, you know, that whole lesson is just the beginning of a lifetime of love of gardening. But I think the most poignant moment really was I was 15 years old, and I had been, you know, going out with this boy that I thought was fabulous, and we had gone to the homecoming dance, and the week later he invited another girl to the Christmas dance. And boy, was I sad.
That's brutal.
It was brutal. It was brutal. Thank God it was before social media, right? So I was, you know, probably on the second day of feeling super sorry for myself, and my wonderful stepmother came in and she handed me a rake, and she said, "Go outside and rake this pile of leaves."
Therapy.
Totally, 100%. And I thought she was so mean. I can't even tell you. I'm sure I said horrible things to my inside voice. But I went outside and I raked the leaves, and I put them in bags, and I brought the bags curbside. And I probably didn't do such a great job, but boy, I felt so much better after that. And, you know, once you start making the correlation between physical activity, breathing fresh air, and being outside, and having a sense of accomplishment for doing a job that's really kind of, you know, mundane, there's nothing more mundane than raking leaves, you know, it started kind of a lifetime of love of that for me. And I lived in Paris, and I had beautiful geraniums outside my windows when I could. And I lived in a funny little apartment in Santa Monica and had a cute little garden. And then I married my husband, and he bought this house from this little old lady that had a beautiful garden. And I would just putter around in that garden for hours. And that really started it for me. Of course, I didn't really make the connection that I could actually earn a living for landscape design. So I embarked in an, tech industry job and loved it. And it was great. My father was a physics professor. I was used to talking to, very, computer guys, right?
Yeah.
It's people who are kind of logging data and who are analyzing data are different from the people who are maybe in sales. So
Yeah.
I could relate to those guys and work really well with them and loved it, but it didn't really warm the cockles of my heart. So when we moved to New York, I found this amazing program at New York Botanical Garden, which offers a summer intensive, and was able to enroll. I think there were only 13 students that they enrolled. And that really got me kickstarted. So
there's nothing like the New York Botanical Garden. I mean, I know you got is it a degree in like as a master gardener there through that program, which is, it's one of my very favorite places to go. You can't go there now, of course, but that must have been a really, really wonderful experience for you.
Well, it was wonderful because in a lot of ways on the East Coast, when you're learning about landscape design, you're learning very different principles than you are on the West Coast. So it's almost like learning High German. We knew, I know how to do grading and drainage, and of course we do that here, but we have PVC pipe that can, convey the water away from sites. And on the East Coast, that's not as common. So, learning like real principles of gardening was exciting, and to be able to apply those when we moved back to the West Coast and started my, my office, then that was, what was a very good backbone for me to rely upon.
Yeah, it's one of the things that makes architecture, landscape design, interior design so interesting is to take it from region to region, because really I always say whether you're talking about decorating, architecture, it really starts from the landscape. What's growing, what are the colors, what can you grow? And I think the landscape has such a, it's just such an important part of just the overall schematic for the home. I myself raise my hand and I feel like I look at a plant and it turns black and dies. So I envy what you do, because I just don't have that that talent. I can grow a wall back here with collage, but
Look, I've seen your artwork. I think you have oodles and gobs of creativity in there. I don't know.
Not in the garden, Andrea.
You might be underestimating yourself.
Not in the garden. But what type of, it's curious, I'm interested to, since it's like COVID is the new world, right? It's like before COVID, after COVID, that will be how we always think of this time, and moving forward, the world will always think of this time. So sort of, COVID forward, are you thinking about landscape design a little bit different? Are your clients thinking of it a little bit different? Speak to that. Are people calling you and saying, I'm thinking about that project and maybe looking at it a little bit differently because I feel like I'm going to be outside or in my yard more frequently?
I think it's easier for people to socially distance outside, to have people over. You can sit across a fire pit and have a conversation. What more cleansing environment is fire for virus? So that's one aspect of it. I think another aspect is it's much easier for people to allow work crews into their gardens.
Yes.
And know that they're not going to be inside their homes. So maybe it's easier for people to fathom having, strangers on site working outside rather than having them in the home. I've noticed also with the coming of summer, people who put projects on hold now are anxious to get them finished. So I think for a whole myriad of reasons, and different things that we're installing too. I have one client that has an infrared sauna that we're building outside.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I would imagine people might be rethinking the landscape and saying, I want, it's also can go down to, I want a bed. I want to build some beds because I want to grow some of my own.
Yes. And people are
vegetables.
definitely doing that now.
And we're putting fountains in because the one of the things that's so important, I think one of the things that a good garden, a good landscape, one that's successful and that you love when you walk through does is, right, it touches all of the senses. It's the smell, the touch, hearing a fountain. Don't you agree?
I agree 100%. And it's interesting because I think that if you do incorporate the five senses, right? You know, we've got sight, which is creating or scaping or shaping, if you will, a natural environment into something that is personal and unique to the person who has, you know, asked for it to be designed and the designer. You have something that's redolent with scent. I mean, there is no garden that I would ever create that doesn't incorporate a layer of scent. We're so lucky in California, the citrus that blooms, and that's so heady and wonderful this time of year, and wisteria and jasmine and stephanotis and roses, and my, oh my, we're so lucky. And, you know, for those who are vegetable gardeners, tomatoes. I mean, there's really nothing that smells like a homegrown tomato.
Yeah, or tastes like it.
Of course. And, you know, so you also have this, you know, the sounds of a fountain. I've got a fountain going behind me. I don't know if you can see it, but there's something very soothing about that. But, you know, I think it's also very interesting because, you know, in taste and creating things that you grow that you can eat. But even things that are antithetical to what we would think of as positive, right? Like, people think that they want to escape the sounds of sirens, but I think that in a beautiful garden setting, even if you do have the vibration of the city and the noise of a siren or the noise of a car going by, I mean, that can be forgiven in a beautiful setting. It doesn't have to always be picture perfect on every, you know, level.
Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting. I think, you know, you're in LA, I'm in Florida, like things grow, you plant things in the ground here, and honestly, a week goes by and it's amazing. But I'm curious about, you know, especially, you know, our so much of our hearts and minds are thinking about New York. And, you know, how do you make, you know, what are some of the things that you could do if you don't have, you know, property, but you're, you know, you're in an apartment? How do you create sort of a personal refuge, if you will, you know, indoors with sort of a limited palette?
Well, I'll tell you honestly, never before have plants from Trader Joe's been lavished such attention. I've got begonias that are really beautiful, and they have just been loved and loved and loved, and thank goodness they're still alive. But I think that we all have access to living, breathing things. It doesn't have to be something that's, you know, it doesn't have to be an oak tree. It can be small. It can be on a micro level. You know, you can propagate a pineapple from the top of a pineapple, for example. I mean, there's little things that you can do to kind of help yourself connect to the natural life and things that are growing. Plant seedlings. Buy a basil plant if you can in your area and just lavish them attention on it if that's something that brings joy to your heart. But I think that it can be big, it can be small, but I think it has to be very personal.
Oh, that's good. I like that a lot. I feel like I can do a basil plant.
You could totally do that. You've got
it's very non-threatening for me. You know, my husband is the one that's really the, you know, we do have a garden here, and this is like his domain. I did hear you.
Parsley is a good one too. Anyone can grow parsley.
Okay, yeah, I need the easy ones. For me. Is there anything else, any other tips in terms of, you know, I think people are really looking, I think it's such an important time that people are looking for calmness in their lives. I think there's more people on Headspace and Calm and wanting to do yoga instead of a HIIT class right now. And how does that translate to the landscape? And what do you think that, I don't know, do you feel like landscape design might evolve out of it? Do you have any crystal ball or, you know, notions coming out of this?
You know, I think it's very interesting. I think people now more than ever, I'd love to see the statistics on how many pairs of running shoes have been purchased during the pandemic, because I think everybody, in no matter what part of the country you are, everyone has the ability to go outside and walk and breathe fresh air, even in, you know, if you're in New York, any city. Especially here in Los Angeles. I mean, our hiking trails are closed and the beaches are closed, but we can still walk in our neighborhoods. How that translates to the garden, I think people are working outside a lot more. I wouldn't be surprised. I do have a couple of clients who've done outdoor yoga decks for outdoor gyms. I wish I could show you our outdoor gym. It's the back of our garage opens up, and my son has put a weightlifting set in the garage, and it's outdoors. It's not pretty to look at, but it's something that brings him joy, and he's like less grouchy, and that makes me happy. But I do think that people are bringing their meditation spaces outside. I think they're bringing a lot of their indoor activities out in the garden a lot more. And I think we're going to see spaces that we carve out for that.
Yeah,
and
I agree. I agree with you. I mean, I will say, I have never seen more of my neighbors out walking. Everyone has, people have a mask and people are social distancing and they're being very smart about it, but bike riding, and I think, we're home. So we have, we don't have a lot of people are not commuting anymore. But I do think people are just craving nature, landscape, and all of that. And that, maybe that's sort of a silver lining moment here. I don't know if you see any silver lining moments, and I wanted to ask you about that as well. And also, how are you, my final question is sort of, how are you, staying inspired, and your team that you work with every day, sort of staying inspired during all of this?
Well, I think that going back to your first question about the silver lining moment, I think all of us now that we have the time to proverbial, I mean, it's not even a proverb anymore. We can stop and smell the roses, and the roses are blooming. And we get a chance to actually enjoy the fruits of our labors. A lot of people invest, building a landscape, big or small, is an investment, and people can actually really enjoy and see the return on their investment every single day. And whether that be, again, a bird that builds a nest, or a butterfly that stops by, or a rose that has bloomed that hasn't bloomed before. I mean, we get to kind of parse out our days and savor the moments in ways we have never been able to before. And who knows, we might not be able to in the future, because I think if anything that this pandemic has taught us is that the future's unsure. But I think ultimately at the end of the day, we can count on the fact that this spring is going to definitely turn into summer. What we're going to be doing is uncertain, but we know for sure that after that is going to come fall and then winter. And there's something very reassuring in, Mother Nature. She reminds us that this is something, the beat goes on.
Absolutely.
So that's my silver lining, because I think that spring is a time where we are very, very busy here in our studio, and we're doing a lot of work. And for us to have the opportunity to kind of integrate being outside more ourselves, and not necessarily with a hard hat and walking around a job site, but being able to enjoy our gardens, I think has been an amazing gift. And to have my children, who are like teenagers, be able to enjoy it too. It's nice. And my husband. So that's been really special.
Good. Well, I'm sure, just being, having flowers, being outdoors, that's inspirational. It is for me. I have not left this work from home space a lot, but the few times that I have gone out for, a walk, a bike ride, you do notice a lot more. You're seeing a lot more of Mother Nature in all her glory. And also, my goodness, without everyone driving and all the airplanes going a buzz, the air is getting a little bit of a break, which is also put that in sort of the silver lining bucket. Andrea, it's been such a pleasure. Will you share with our audience where they can find out more about your work?
Yes.
Yes.
Andrea Scharf Landscape Design, that's 2Fs.com, or at Andrea Scharf Landscape on Instagram.
Thank you so much. I hope that everyone watching will take some time, go out into the garden, or make your own garden. All that you need is parsley and basil, and you too can feel the therapy of the healing garden. And thanks so much for tuning in today, everyone.